Hi, this instructional video is another dealing with percents. We're going to use a thing called proportions and ratios. This is the part where many times kids get confused. So let me give you a template on how to work with these things. First of all, when we talk about proportions and ratios, it's about two fractions. Two fractions where they equal to each other. One might be smaller than the other, but they have a same ratio. Like 1 over 2, you know it's same as 3 over 6. Same ratio, because it reduces to 1/2. So using that concept, let me give an example on how to do number 1. It says, what is 20% of 60? So we're talking about part, so here's the way we set it up. Here you go, check this out. Okay, right here. We're going to have two fractions. And the lower right hand corner will always be 100%. That's the whole thing. So when we look at this instruction, it says what is 20%, this part of this whole thing. So here's the key word. Any number that follows the word of, any number that comes after of, is the whole thing. Okay? So of 60, 6 the whole thing, so 60 is 100%, and it will always go over here. That's the whole thing. And the question is, well, what's that 20% of it? So the right quotient is always about percents, so we're going to put 20% here. The key important thing is the lower right hand corner is always 100%. And then what is that part? And that's what we don't know. So we're going to put an X right there. Do you see the setup? And then from here, we're going to do a cross multiplication. And I always recommend start with the X cross multiplication. So X times 100 is 100X. And that equals to the other product, 60 times 20 is 2 times 6. That's 12 with 2 zeros. Solve for X. So we're using algebra. And we're going to divide both sides by that 100. The coefficient, to solve for X, because 100 and 100 reduces, so X comes out by itself. Now base 10 rule says as long as I cancel out 2 zeros from the numerator, I could cancel out the 2 zeros from the denominator. That leaves you with 12 over 1. So X is simply 12. And so the answer is, what is 20% of that? 12. Alright, so now you see that. The second one then. And this time, let me actually do the work on this part. So once again, we're going to have two fractions set it to equal to each other. And the lower right hand corner is always going to be 100%. And we just said, any number that follows the word of, that's the whole thing. So 100% is 18. That's the whole thing. And the question is, what percent? Uh-oh, this time we don't know what percent. So this time we're going to put the X here because the right quotient is always the percent. Well, whatever it is, that part of the 18 is 2.52. And so that goes over there. And we're going to do a cross multiply starting with the X first. So in this case, it's 18 times X, which is 18X. And that equals 2.52 times 100. Well, 100 means just move the 2 decimals over to the right, so that's 252. And now to solve for X, we're going to divide that number next to the X to both sides, which is 18. So 18 on the left reduces out. So that's going to leave you with X only, and whatever this is the answer. So let's do the scratch work over here. 252. Top number goes inside when we divide. 18 goes into 25 without going over one time. So we subtract. We end up with 72. So the answer is 14%, that is, I'm sorry. 2.52 is 14% of 18. And no, we don't have to worry about moving the decimal because it's already in percent here. Then how about this one? This time, here's the keyword of, and whatever that follows is the whole number, but we don't know what that is. So let's set that up. Two fractions equal to each other. 100% is always in the lower right hand corner. And do we know what that whole part is? We don't know. So this time, that whole is what we don't know. But we do know the part is 2, and that is only 5% of the whole thing. Did you see that setup? Just remember to always put the 100% on the lower right hand corner, and the second quotient is always the percents. Now we're going to do a cross multiply, starting with the variable first. So this time, x times 5, it's going to be 5x. And that equals 2 times 100 is 200. And to solve for x, we divide that number 5 to both sides of the equation. So x equals, well, 5 goes into 20 4 times and a 0. So 2 is 5% of what? Is actually 5% of 40 whole. So now, you try these three and see if you could set it up correctly. This one, number 6, is the spicy one. It's the chili pepper one. See if you can figure it out. Okay, sorry about the little chicken scratch here. It says 96.60 is what percent of 210? So you said right away, I'm going to make two quotients, set it equal to each other, and the lower right hand corner is always going to be 100%. And I'm going to look for the word of. The word of tells me that the number that follows is the whole thing. And that whole thing goes with 100%, which is the bottom portion. And then the part of that 210 is 96.60. Can I just put 96.6? And what percent? That's what we don't know, so that's the percent. That's where the x will go. Kind of like the example number 2. Now we're going to do a cross multiply with the variable first. So 210 times x is simply 210x. And that equals to, here's a tough one, but it's not too bad. 96.6 times 100 means move the decimal. There's 2 zeros, so move the decimal to the right 2 times. So it becomes 9660. Now to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by the coefficient 210. So 210 simplifies, so x comes out by itself. Here, we could use the base 10 rule and knock off the zeros from both sides, top and bottom. So what we have to find out is what is 966 divided by 221. Top number goes inside. So 21 becomes the divisor. Now 21 goes into 96 without going over 8 times. If you said 9, or no, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm sorry, 4 times. Jeez. Here, let me do that again. 966 divided by 21 goes in 4 times, because that's going to be 84. If I said 5, it will be over 100. Now, it becomes 126. And guess what? 21 goes into 126 6 times. And so, 96.6 is what percent? It's 46%. And how about this one? You said, alright, set up the two fractions again. I hope you're seeing a pattern by now. And the lower right hand corner is always 100%. And the keyword of tells me whatever number follows is the whole thing. So this time it's what? So we don't know, so we put an x here. But we do know that the part is only 4 out of that whole thing, whatever that is. And that it represents only 16% of the 100% whole thing. Cross multiply involving the x first. So x times 16 is 16x. 4 times 100 is 400. To solve for x, we divide 16 to both sides of the equation. 16's reduce, simplify, and so we have x. And now, we do a little work. Top number goes inside. 400 divided by 16. 16 goes into 40 without going over. Not 3, but 2. So we have 80. And guess what? 16 goes into 80 nice and neat 5 times. So 4 is 16% of what whole thing? 25. Now this one was a little spicy because the number was a little bigger. But once again, 2 fractions. The lower right hand corner is always 100%. And this time, the word of tells me that the whole thing is 86. So that goes down here. And that part percent is 24%. And what we want to know is what is the 24% of the whole thing? So that's what we don't know. That was like number 1. So multiply, cross multiply with the x first. X times 100 is 100x. Now 86 times 24, we have to do a little multiplication here. So here we go. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 8 is 32, plus a 2 is 34. 2 times 6 is 12, carry the 1. 2 times 8 is 16, plus the 1 is 17. So we got 4602. So 2064. To solve for x, we divide both sides by 100. Don't worry, it's not that bad. So x is equal to, well, that 100, 2 zeros tells me all you have to do is move the decimal 2 to the left from the right. So we get 20.64. So what is 24% of the whole thing? It's only 20.64. There you go. Proportions and ratios.